name is Alyssa Rowe. I'm here with Danny Wilson. He is the Turn 5 turnaround promoter, or owner, really, the host of Turn 5. We're here at Hagerstown Speedway. We're getting finished up with Test and Tune. And we want to talk to Danny a little bit about how he got into racing and, you know, how he's evolved in the racing industry. So, Danny, let's talk a little bit about how you got involved with racing and got you to where you are today.
Racing has always been a part of what I love to do. And it wasn't until about 1999 when I really got involved with the Winchester Speedway. And when I jumped on board with Winchester, at the time I had my own safety consulting business and I sponsored a lot of events. It went from that to sponsoring the likes of Bo Feathers, JT Spence, Tim and Brent Hoddle, Mike Franklin, Chris Eaton, David Kaiser, and it just kept growing and growing. And I was always trying to keep track of who I've helped out and the events that I've sponsored. And from 1999 until present day, Turn 5 or myself as doing consulting work as safety, we've sponsored over 20 events.
Wow.
And we've sponsored or helped, as far as what I would consider a trade out, over 60 different drivers.
Wow, that's a lot.
And so I share that because my love for the sport, I always want to give back. I always want to help people out. And we've had a lot of fun with it. We've done some very unique things. But Winchester is where it started, and it just kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. You've been very involved, and I guess I've really gotten to know you over the past few years. Now, you know how I got into racing was my dad. He's been a big influence to me. You mentioned wanting to talk a little bit about your father, what your, your influences with him and where you're standing at with him. You want to talk about that?
My dad was a minister for over 20 years, and I feel blessed that I grew up in a Christian home because I don't view people differently, and I'm glad that I'm like that. And I'm able to adapt to whatever lifestyle they are, whether they're rich, poor, whatever it may be.
Right.
But unfortunately, my parents divorced in the late 80s, and my dad moved to California and he remarried, and we haven't spoken in quite some time. And things kind of went south, and some people ask me from time to time, we never hear you talk about your dad.
Right.
And it's very tough for me to talk about it. But I still look back on the way I grew up.
Right.
And I think because of the way I grew up, growing up in a Christian home, being faced with a lot of diversity and seeing people go through drug and alcohol addictions, marital issues, financial issues, and seeing that bring into my home, because we always had people coming into our house.
Right.
It has allowed me to become such a people person.
Yeah.
And it has given me a lot of success because of that.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I know you're very close with your mom, though, right?
Very close to my mom. I live in Stevens City, Virginia. My mom lives in the small town of Petersburg, West Virginia, and we're about an hour and 20 minutes from my mom. And I have an older sister and a younger brother. They still live in that area. I elected to move over to Virginia mainly because of work, but I do have a fantastic relationship with my mother.
That's great.
I talk to her just about every day on the phone.
Oh.
I do try to go visit her as often as I can. I'm very busy with a lot of different things, but she'll come and visit with me as well. But I do feel like my relationship with my mom is second to none.
Yeah, that's great. So with that being said, I'm sure a lot of people have influenced you throughout the years. You want to talk about who all has been a big impact to you?
Well, in my growing up, my mom and my dad. But then as I got older, I had an individual that really helped me get my business started, the late Jimmy Dyer. He was the vice president of Cape and Valley Bank, and he was a big influence on me starting my own business and pushing me to the next level. And I miss him tremendously because he was like a father figure for me. And then the next person would be Donald Blankenship. Donald Blankenship is like a brother to me. I had a very successful career refereeing basketball, partly to do because of Donald. Donald and I hunt and fish together. We eat lunch together from time to time. Walter Nichols. If it wouldn't be for Walter being a great friend, Turn 5 probably wouldn't be where it's at. it is a team effort to get Turn 5 to where it is. But Walter's been a big influence on me, and I share a lot of information with him. But on the racing side, the man that really gave me a huge opportunity was Doug Timmons. He's another guy that's like a father to me. And I've never told Doug that. So if he sees this, he's going to be kind of blown away, because I do look at him as a man of stature in the racing community. Anybody that's promoted a racetrack for 20 plus years, they have clout. And when I became the general manager at Winchester, I elected to leave to start up the Steel Block Bandit series. Before I did that, I sat down many times with Doug, and I'm like, I want to try this. I want to see if it'll work. And he told me, he was like, hey, this is what your challenges are going to be. And he was spot on with everything that I faced. And I still confide with him with Turn 5 stuff. You know, where can we help promote racing, not just for Turn 5, but for the race teams and for the race tracks. So Doug Timmons has been a big influence on me when it comes to racing, a big influence, as well as Dave Wilt, because Dave Wilt was kind of stepping away a little bit as being the general manager at Winchester, and when I stepped in helping out, I really listened to both those guys, because here you got a man that raced for many years, had a lot of success racing, stepped in as a general manager, and here you got a guy that raced a little bit but stepped in as a promoter, had huge success as a promoter. Why not listen to both of those individuals? So, you know, I've been very lucky to have people influence me. Ironically, you mentioned people that influenced me. I just took on a new job, still doing safety, and the gentleman that I worked for just retired. His name's Bill Seibert. And in 1 year's time frame, that guy influenced me and helped me think outside the box and really slow me down to be a better person. And I go back to my wife as well, because she's been an influence on me, because as most people know, I'm wide open all the time. I don't stop. And anything that I touch and do, if it's not 100%, it drives me nuts. Well, because I have that drive, it drives my wife nuts. And there's times where she says, Danny, you need to slow down. You got to slow down. So there's a balance there between all those individuals. And then there's people like you. You know, I get to meet great people like you that influence me. And you don't realize it, but there's little things that you do that makes me a better person, like on the marketing side. That makes me a better person. You know, when I meet those people and I take a little bit of peace from them, it helps me be a better Danny Wilson, a better father, a better husband, a better promoter for our sport. And I don't take any of that for granted. Some people think, well, Danny Wilson can have a little edge to him. I always try to be as humble as I can, because this could end tomorrow. And I'm not getting any younger. I'm getting older. I got a little bit of gray. I lost all my daggone hair. You know, it's just things like that the older I get, the more I appreciate what I have, and not material things. What I have is I'm a millionaire because I have great friends and I have great family.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about racing too. You know, you meet so many great people, and I like to try and promote that aspect of racing more than anything. Like, why should I get my kids involved? Why should I get my family involved? Like, that's why. And I think that not only this interview, but other interviews that we do, you show even the people at the top. They started at the bottom and they grew so much just because of racing, you know? And you are very humble, and that's one thing that I really like. I know that you coached basketball, and I'm sure that has helped you along the way. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I refereed basketball. I started in 1993, and I started doing local high school ball in Virginia and West Virginia. And it was in the late 90s. I had a friend of mine, Donald Blankenship. He said, Danny, you're a pretty good referee. You ought to try to go to the next level. And I really wanted to referee on the men's side, but it was funny. When I went to my first tryout camp, they said, you'll never make it on the men's. And I'm like, why? Too short. Like, really?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, man, what a kick in the head. So I switched over and started refereeing women's college basketball, and it allowed me to move up very quickly. I worked a great schedule. I was trained by some of the best that actually work in the NBA. Scott Foster, George Tolliver, Joey Crawford. Those individuals refereed at a very high level in the NBA. Those were the people that trained me. I refereed probably close to 20 state tournament games, got selected into NCAA tournament a couple of times. In 2008, My son was going through some challenges. I just got so burnt out on everything. I quit. Quit high school and college both. I just quit. And then I went back and refereed for 2.5 more years. Hurt my foot, and I haven't refereed since. But it's ironic how things in that, because you got to think really quickly on your feet how to diffuse a situation. You got a coach mad or a player mad, and how do you diffuse that situation? So you pick up these little one-liners to diffuse it. I use those same things here at the racetrack. If there's somebody that's upset, I try to diffuse the situation as quickly as we can so we can move on. And but refereeing was a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people, traveled a lot, and I was very blessed. But it's ironic how some of that has helped me in racing and in my personal life as well.
You've done a lot for the racing community. What have you done outside of the racing community that you really want to talk about?
So there was something that a lot of people don't know, some do, but my son, he's 22 years old. He's had over 40 surgeries. Dr. Ben Carson, who was running for president, actually conducted some of those surgeries. He has a very rare condition, and one part of it is he has glaucoma. So he was eligible to go to the Romney School of the Deaf and Blind because of his eyesight not being as crisp. And Christian every once in a while would mention about going to the races. So I thought, how cool would it be to bring the kids to the racetrack? Well, then I realized logistically it may not work. So I was like, let's bring the race cars to them. So I gathered up, when I was the general manager at Winchester, I gathered up about 15 drivers. We took the cars to Romney, West Virginia. They shut the school down for the biggest part of the day.
Oh my gosh.
And it was incredible. The kids that were blind, they would touch the cars with their hands and they would actually feel every little detail.
Aww.
And the kids that couldn't hear, when the cars started up, because they would fire them up throughout the day, they'd put their hands on it and feel the vibration. And we had TV 3 there, we had newspaper people there. It was a very special time to be able to give back to kids. And then Doug Timmons turned around and said, we need to get those kids to Winchester. And Calvin was the promoter at the time. Doug had stepped aside, and Doug said, I will pay for everything to get them there, their food, drinks, whatever. And it was incredible to be able to give back like that.
Yeah.
And when I see kids that are struggling, that are handicapped, and I guess part of it is having a son that's handicapped. Mentally he's sharp as a tack, but physically his body's a mess. There's a picture that I posted on Facebook back in September. I ran a 10K race, and at the end of the race they give you a medal. Well, there was a kid that needed a walker, and I gave him my medal.
Aww.
And that meant more to me than just completing the race, because the emotion that he had on his face was it just made me feel like $1 million to be able to see that from that kid. And ironically, his father was running, and his dad comes through, and he goes up to the little boy and he goes, "Look, Dad, I got a medal too." And just seeing that just really touched me. And I've had opportunities like that where I've been able to give back. We did a thing at Winchester where I gathered up several drivers on Christmas morning and went to the Winchester Medical Center and gave toys away.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's little things like that that I've been able to be a small part of and to give back to the community, and it's pretty special to do that.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that you can do stuff like that. I know you do a lot. Anytime that I do anything on social media, you're always right there. You're one of the first ones to help, so I really appreciate that. So speaking of social media, you and I are both pretty big on social media. What do you think in the racing community we could engage more with, or what should be changed as for racing?
So I think majority of the track promoters are scared to death. So let's talk about the promoters first before we talk about the race teams. The track promoters seem to be scared to death to really commit to this social media thing. When I say commit, right now they touch on it. Some tracks do better than others, where they'll post their schedule or post an upcoming event. Well, we need more than that. Let's put a video out there from every week, or a live feed at the track. Well, as soon as you say that to a track promoter, the fans won't come because of this. Well, if you have a product that is so good, the fans are going to come whether it's a live feed or not. It's just like a NASCAR event. Now, NASCAR is struggling a little bit, but you still see a fair amount of people go to the races and they watch it from home. So there is a balance there. And I don't know what the right answer is, but I do feel like we need to flood the market with more social media as track promoters.
Right.
The same way with race teams. If you collect money from someone, and I'm not saying that you need to dedicate all your time to that business, but if you collect money from someone, you're obligated to promote that business.
Right.
And it drives me nuts when somebody gets the money and you get one little blurb. We'd like to thank our sponsors. That's it.
Who's your sponsor?
Who is your sponsors?
Yeah.
So if you're watching this, who is your sponsors? But that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And there are race teams that I don't sponsor because of that particular reason.
Right.
We'd like to thank our sponsors. No. Take a picture of the car and then say, we'd like to thank blah, blah, blah. If you notice on turn 5, I always hashtag all of our sponsors.
Right.
And then also on our posters, every sponsor logo is on the side of it. Mm-hmm. You do the same thing with your race team. And so the race teams need to learn how to do that. Now, as individuals sitting in the fans in the grandstands, utilize social media in a positive way. Everything's so negative.
Right.
We post stuff and we see stuff negative.
Yep.
You watch the news, it's always negative. And that's one reason why we get that negative feedback from the promoters.
Right.
Because everything is really negative. And I think we can change that. I'm going to do something here at Hagerstown this year. When I come up to do National Anthem, I'm going to do everything I can to get every person to go on Facebook and do a live feed.
That's a good idea.
Even if it's 30 seconds. And I'm just going to talk. And I'm going to go live. Hey, we're live. And we got all these people here live. You're flooding social media. And it's an opportunity to promote the Hagerstown Speedway plus all the race
Right.
teams that are here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's little things that we can do to make an improvement on that. Don't be afraid of social media if you're a track promoter. Yeah. If you're a race team, utilize it to get more sponsors. So it's a slippery slope, but if you're going to do it, commit to it. Don't dabble in it just a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think a lot more race teams need to up their social media game.
Absolutely.
And I guess let's talk a little bit about what in the racing industry in general do you think needs to change for it to improve?
Well, there's a couple things that are happening that I always think is very unique about our sport. Mm-hmm. One is a racing series. And I'm probably going to get shot when I say this. I do not like a racing series that you come in and you have the track pay the purse, you charge a sanctioning fee, and you charge a registration fee. You're triple dipping is what you're not double dipping, you're triple dipping.
Yep.
Because no matter what, that series is going to come out on top because they're getting sanctioning fee and registration fee and they don't have to pay the purse.
Yep.
So I have a little heartburn over that. So when I had the Steel Block Bandit series, and I'm not saying this is right, the track paid the purse, I charged a small registration fee. I didn't charge a sanctioning fee to the track. Mm-hmm. And I did that because I didn't want to double dip. And my registration fee was so low, I ended up, and I don't want to say this because my wife would shoot me if I told her how much money I lost with the series, but I ended up taking money out of my own pocket to pay the points fund and pay my staff.
Right.
I treated that series as if it was the Lucas Oil series. I wanted it to be the best that it possibly could.
As every series should,
right.
Really.
And so did I make some mistakes? Yeah, daggone right idea. But I learned a lot. And I learned that the racing series that you get the track to pay the purse, you charge a registration fee, and you charge a sanctioning fee, you're triple dipping. Right. And I feel like that hurts some of the racetracks in our area. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is rules. Anytime you change a rule, it costs somebody money. And when you have a racetrack that's 10 minutes or 20 minutes down the road and you're not running the same rules, for that particular division, boy, it drives such a divide. Yeah. And I always kind of chuckle when I hear a track promoter say, well, those are my race cars. Really? Then you pay the bill for that race team if it's your race car.
Right.
And we need to work together on that, which leads me into something else where Turn 5, we're not just an internet show. We are a promoting entity. This year we did something that I had people tell me, oh, you'll never pull it off. We did the promoter seminar or workshop.
Right.
and we had every track within about a 3-hour drive of Hagerstown represented. Now, we didn't have all of the promoters, but we had somebody from that track come and show representation for that facility.
Right.
And it was within about a 3-hour drive, minus 1 or 2. And I was told we wouldn't get 40%. All right? Now, spent a lot of time on the phone. Mike Kirshner helped out with that as well. A lot of time on the phone calling these guys. And it was amazing. The first thing they said was, we want to know how we can work together.
That's
we
great.
want to know how we work together. So we tested the water this year. I'm pleased to announce on your show that we are going to step it up next year, and it's going to be set up where we have 3 classes in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, different topics, and then we'll have a keynote speaker in the afternoon. It'll be a much bigger venue, and I'm still not going to charge anything. This is going to come out of my pocket or get a sponsor to help foot the bill. I want to keep the cost down on that.
That's great.
So we're more than just a Tuesday night show.
Right.
You know, we want to help people out, and you know, I enjoy doing things like this for people. I feel like this is my calling in racing, more so than what I ever did with the Bandit Series or being a general manager. This Turn 5 thing is good for the sport, not because I'm involved, but it promotes everything. If you look at who we have on the show, we've had the likes of Josh Richards all the way down to the little guys that run go-karts and quarter midgets right over here at the quarter midget track. So we know where we came from. We keep our grassroots local, but we do dabble into those top tier drivers to have them come on the show. And without that, we wouldn't get our numbers up. We couldn't just focus on the kids. We couldn't just focus on pure stocks. We couldn't just focus on one division. But we have that diversity, and it does help us grow.
Yeah. I like, well, while I'm hearing you say all that, I just think of when I was younger, I always thought with racing, what does God want me to do? What is my talent that God wants me to do? And it may not be driving a race car, but I'm here, you know, I'm changing girls' minds, I'm changing small kids' minds, and I see that in you. I see that you want to make a change, not only with spectators, not only with promoters, but with drivers and people in the community. You're always helping someone, even if it's not involved with the community. And I really admire you for that, and I hope you know that. And I wish that we could get more people that were that passionate about their love for this sport. So thank you for inspiring me and inspiring other drivers as well.
I had something happen. Jimmy McFarland. We sponsored Slot Car Track, okay?
Yes.
First 1,000 to win event that ever happened.
Right.
And Jimmy McFarland won that race. Now, Jimmy's been a big supporter of late model racing. He sponsors the teams. He helped JT Spence out. And Jimmy and I have known each other for probably close to 20 years now. And when Jimmy came to the studio, because he won the $1,000 event, he was as nervous as he could be. And I'm like, why are you nervous? He goes, Danny, this is big. And again, this is where being humble kicks in. I don't look at our show as being like that premier show.
Right.
To me, it's just a show that helps people. But when you see these kids come in and they get nervous, or even adults that come in and get nervous, they're like, I'm going to be on the same show that Josh Richards was on, or Jonathan Davenport was on, or Scott Bloom. We interviewed Scott Bloomquist years back. When you see those kids or the adults light up, you kind of, in the back of your mind, you're like, wow, we really are making a difference. We are really touching somebody's life. And it's not just touching them for racing, it's just touching them as a human being. Denzel Washington, I love listening to his motivational speeches on YouTube, because he always says some things that really makes me think outside of the box. How can I be a better person? And that's really what I want to be. I want to be a better person every day.
You've had a lot of experience, but what is the most memorable experience for you?
Probably when my daughter won the Miss Motorsports.
No, let's talk about that. I want to hear about that.
So my daughter had competed in a couple beauty pageants, and when I had the Steel Block Bandit Series, I said something to her. I was like, hey, they got this thing going on where you'll be able to travel with potentially see some NASCAR people, dirt track people, AMA, whatever you want to do. And she looked at it and she was like, I'll never win. And I'm like, why? And she goes, all these other girls have competed in this several times and then they eventually win. Nobody that goes the first time wins. And so we get up there. She registered. We get up there to the Philly show, and we had a Steel Block Bandit had a booth, and she ended up winning the event. First time in many things. First time a Virginia girl has won it.
Right.
First time that in like 6 years that the first person to compete, or first time they competed, to win it. And there was some upset people over it. But Jeremy Miller was one of the judges. And he pulled me aside after the event was over, and he said, "Danny," he goes, "we knew she was going to win it as soon as she walked in the room because she talked about racing.
Right.
It wasn't about, oh, I'm pretty, I can do this, I can do that. She knew racing."
Right.
And it really intrigued them, and she about run me ragged. We made probably close to 200 appearances that year, and I had the Bandit Series going on.
Oh my gosh.
But one of the unique things, and this is where I feel like I've taught my kids well, we went to Dunhill 2 Speedway, and this is probably one of the most memorable moments of racing for me. And it actually got me really choked up because of what my daughter did. We went to Dunhill 2 Speedway, which is in the northern part of Pennsylvania. Jimmy Spencer's cousin owns this dirt track. Their premier division is modifieds. We get there and we pull in. You kind of get a sense that the people don't have a lot of money. And Danielle said, "Dad, I'm not going to charge these people for my poster. I'm going to give them away." Every person that wanted a poster got one. She did picture taking. She took her crown off, let the little girls wear them. And as a father sitting back and watching that, it made me really humble. Kind of like the deal with my son when he was going to the Romney School of the Deaf and Blind. That was kind of his idea, to be able to bring racing to the facility. I just put the ball in motion to make that happen, but it was his idea.
Right.
With my daughter, her giving back like that was really, really special. And that was a moment she brought up on stage when they asked her, "What was your most memorable moment?" And she said, "Dunhill 2 Speedway."
Wow.
And that was pretty special. But there's been some funny things that have happened with racing. We had the lights go out at Winchester one time because somebody jumped the berm when we had the old style, hit the light pole, wiped it out, and the lights went out. We had a squirrel run across the catch fence here on the front stretch, and I think I had some lady pee her pants down in the grandstands because I said, "We're just up here squirreling around," because everybody's seeing this. They weren't even watching the races; they were watching a squirrel running back and forth on the catch.
I think I was here that day.
It was kind of funny, but I've been blessed. I truthfully, I've had the opportunity to do everything in racing, including drive a car. I announced, I've scored, I've registered, I've worked in the concession stands. I've prepped a racetrack. Anything racing related, I've touched it. I've even cleaned poop out of the toilet many a times at Winchester and other tracks as well. But I've been very blessed to be able to do what I do, and I don't take a moment of it for granted. I've had great people support me, and the guys from Turn 5, Walter, Shea, and Ryan, and all of our sponsors on the show. They believe in what we're doing. So when you asked me to do this, I was shocked because I've never had anybody really want to do a full-on sit-down interview like this. Walter and I have done some things, but to do one at this level, I couldn't have had a better person approach me. And I mean that because what you do for racing is special. When I say it's special, you and your father have a tremendous relationship. And when I see you two in the pits, because of my distant relationship, I'm like, man, I wish I had that. But it's okay. I'm cool with that because I don't have that, but I see what you and your father have, and it's special. The other part that's special is you touch some people's lives, the young kids, young girls especially, here locally that is a tremendous influence. And what was cool was the night that you won here, and there was some kids, I think they were cheerleaders or gymnasts that was there, and the way that they were carrying on, I thought, man, this is something I want to put in my memory bank, because this is a moment where you just want to sit back and kind of capture it. And there's been many times I've played that back, and and I'm looking forward to that day again where I interview you in Victory Lane, or we interview another young person that's coming into the sport. So thank you for doing this, because I think this is quite unique. I'm usually the guy doing all the questions, and to have somebody ask me some questions and talk about some things that I haven't talked about in quite some time, it's an honor to share those with someone like you, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's been fun growing our friendship over the past year or two. And I look forward to Turn 5 turnaround becoming bigger and bigger, and Danny Wilson becoming bigger and bigger. But race fans, make sure you check out Turn 5 turnaround. You can check out their Facebook. I'll put all their social media links after this video. And make sure you bring a friend to the races this year. And thank you again for doing this. Do you have any final thoughts for the race fans? I learned that phrase from you.
My final thought is this. Regardless of what happens in your life, racing is a small part of it. The family and friends will last forever. And don't let something such as racing or other outside influences drive that wedge between you and your family or friends. Because you only get one opportunity, you only get one family, and you only get one set of friends. And just remember who they are and be humble.